Hello, and this is Scully, yes, the man with two names, here to just tell you a little bit about Image 7. We are based in Perth, is our headquarters, if you like, our hub. We've been around for 25 years now, working with a whole range of clients, a team of more than 20, and we've got team members working across Australia and now also in Ireland and the UK. Now, I guarantee you're emailing someone out in business land, and we want to make sure that we really learn to create sort of email communications that are as valuable as possible, really engaging, and are very impactful for your business.
Okay, Brad here. So to start off, we really wanted to talk about the value of email, and as the title suggests, we think it's pretty big, but there's been a bit of a myth that's gone around, and this is a Wall Street Journal headline right back to October 2009, and that's when social media was really taking off. But if you look at the Wall Street Journal, even since then, they've run stories where they're saying, email isn't dead. So we're definitely in the camp that email's not dead. We'll show you why we believe that, and it's not in question. But the real question is it changing? And yes, it is. It is definitely changing in response to where technology is taking us. And this is one of the biggest reasons why. This little graph is the global digital information created and shared. So you can see on the left-hand side there, 2005 through to 2015. This is from IDC. And the scale on the left is the information created and shared in zettabytes, and I'm not even sure if that's how you say it, but it's incredibly big. But you can see the trend. It is upwards, and it is just going out of all proportions. And this is the environment that your emails live in. This is the environment that you've got to get cut through in.
There's an awful lot of, whether it's zeta, who knows, whatever bytes is involved, there is such a lot of information. What do we know about that information? What is for sure that email is preferred. It's a preferred way of consuming that information. I mean, 77% of consumers said they prefer to receive, this is the key word, permission-based email. It's the number one source to consume that information for all age groups. And this is important so important for businesses. So email investment is up. Look, practically 2/3 of businesses, of firms are showing that they're investing in email marketing and are expecting to increase that. That's because it works. My question is, what are the other third doing if they're not? So it's an important mode of communicating with clients, prospective clients. So we know that much. Now, this gets even more compelling. How do we know that it gets read? The feedback, all the research shows 58% of adults check their email first thing in the morning. Now, I don't know if they're checking it once, 15 times, in my case, yes, sadly, but true. But that's extraordinary figure. So 58% are checking that email first thing. So you've got to get in there, got to talk to your customer base, because they're reading it on email.
Scully, I want to know what the other 42% are doing before they get to work. Surely you check your emails before you get to work, first thing in the morning. But take those numbers and break it down, and this is probably the number that we'd like you to remember, and that is that 91% of people check their email every day, according to ExactTarget, which is now part of the Salesforce behemoth. But 91%, 9 out of 10 people are checking their email every day. So today's goal, we talked at the very beginning about establishing the value of email. We've done that, but we also talked about why the days of batch and blast is over, common e-newsletter mistakes, and how to use email to engage your clients. We thought the best way to tackle that in the time that we've got, and we've got a lot of material to get through in the time that we've got, is to really ask the key question: what makes an engaging email? And we'll answer those other questions on the way through. So an engaging email, we believe there's 3 parts. engaging emails are trusted by the receivers. They're always relevant to the receivers, and they're part of conversations. They're not part of the old style, old thinking campaigns.
Trust, trust, trust now is such a key word, particularly in these days of content marketing. How do we get an email to be trusted? You must get so many yourselves. Point one, opt-in ability. There you go. Make sure it's opt-inable. We want people to opt in, not opt out ideally. So first of all, by people opting in, we know they want to read your information. Spam, important word. You probably use it in a derogatory fashion. We want to avoid being seen as spam, absolutely vital. List hygiene, not personal hygiene. List hygiene, that means you tailoring that list, working on it, refining it week by week to make sure that the people that are receiving that email want to. And then deliverability, we'll go into much more detail about how to actually get that perfectly crafted message right through into people's inboxes.
So the first point in the trusted email is about opt-ins. Now, we would imagine at least first glance that clients opt in when they become a client, when we do the first engagement with them. But I'm here to ask you today, do they? You've actually got lots of different types of email, which we'll talk about a little later, we'll touch on, but do they opt in to all of those emails? And that is a question for you to grapple with and answer, because you will have many different types of emails. Prospective clients, on the other hand, absolutely need to fully opt in. And that's a matter of legislation in the various countries, and we've got participants in this webinar who are from UK, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, the Americas. So there's different laws in different places, but opting in is not something that you can take for granted. But general rule of thumb, make sure that everybody opts in.
We're back to that spam word again. Now, we'd all like to think that none of us would ever send an unwanted email, because everyone's bound to want to read the fantastic stuff that we've got to say about ourselves. But you know what? It's not in our eyes. It's in the eyes of the receiver that it's the perception of whether it's spam or not. So think about, put yourself in the position of who's receiving the email. Do they really want to receive this? And it's so important. Never underestimate it. You might, just by blitzing it out there, the opportunity to earn trust is so important, but equally you can erode it hugely by bombarding people with spam. So don't do it. Now, there is also legislation beyond just the content element of whether people do or don't want to read something. Now, whether you're in Australia, Europe, New Zealand, Canada, wherever it may be, there is very important legislation that's there to be observed. So, and you need to identify yourself as a sender and look at that legislation, see that you're not crossing the line, because it's not just a case of damaging your reputation. There can be very severe fines, and you can be liable to some damage to your reputation and to your wallet if you're not observing that legislation. So first of all, always make sure you obtain consent where appropriate, and very, very important, ensure that people can unsubscribe if they want to.
Now, I'm into big numbers today, zettabytes, and this study, which studied 20 trillion emails. There's a lot of emails in the world, but 85% of them are marked as spam in this study of 20 trillion emails. So the key thing here is that most emails sent in the world you don't see, because they are spam and they've been marked as spam. Also, don't get too perturbed if some of your emails get marked as spam. That's okay. That's good, and you know that it's working, but do pay attention to it. Don't ignore that. And also, at the same time, don't be too perturbed when something spamish actually gets into your inbox and gets past all the filters, because 85% of the emails have been filtered out, and the filters are generally doing a pretty good job of it. Now, list hygiene. Your sender reputation that's the reputation not of you or your firm, but the reputation of the machine, the computer, the IT technology that's sending your emails is absolutely crucial. Because if that IT infrastructure has a reputation online for being spammy, if that's the right term, it will affect the deliverability of your emails. Now, how can you do that? Well, number one, you use a credible email service provider. We'll talk about that in a little while. But also to regularly resolve things like the bounces, so they're emails that come back undelivered, and when they come back, they'll come back with a little bit of a notification saying that it's a hard bounce or a soft bounce. Hard bounces are the bounces where the email is actually undeliverable. It's been refused by the server, or the email address doesn't exist anymore. Soft bounces are where it does exist, but the email box is full, or something like that. Unsubscribes. If somebody unsubscribes, make sure you remove them from the list. Again, email service providers and the software that they provide can automate some of that for you, and that's great. If you don't, if you're running smaller lists, and in professional services firms, that's quite the norm, and it can be done manually, but make sure you do it, because otherwise somebody's unsubscribing and you're just going to send them straight back, and how annoyed would you be? And if somebody does report you as spam and you get that reported to you, act on it. Clean up your list straight away.
So I really want to talk about deliverability now. You're actually getting it through, getting that email through, that delivered to reach the client, potential client that you're wanting to reach. Now, I urge you not to do it from your own email address. There can be ramifications if there are problems. You can get taken offline, all sorts of issues with that. Important now, select a really good email service provider. We're not here to endorse one in particular. We use a number, and ourselves are happy to talk offline in specifically if you want to get in touch with us. But the benefits from an email service provider are manyfold in terms of just delivering. They're not that expensive as a rule. Delivering who you want, the size of market that you're trying to reach. So there's a lot of benefits from that. Trigger words. How do you get through sometimes? Now, once upon a time, the algorithms used to slam down on words like free or capitals everywhere. Wouldn't get through a firewall. Now, things have changed now. It's not that simple. But there are key rules to follow to make sure that the emails actually get through. So I'll tell you what, have a look at your own spam folder. Why not? Have a look at it now and find to yourself who's ended up in there, who is not getting through. And as a good rule of thumb, don't do what it is that they've done, because if they're not getting through your firewall, I guarantee they won't be getting yours. Applying the same things won't be getting through your potential clients' ones either. Now, relevance, really important stuff. Always be relevant, but your perception of relevance and someone else's might not be the same. So what does that mean? First of all, it means make sure you're talking to the right people. Those right people will know what they want to hear, and you'll be able to communicate with them specifically as you get to know them. To say the right things to these people, so whatever that might be, and we'll go into more detail. And improve. Now, how do you improve? How do you know? It's simple. Always keep improving and aim to keep improving on your statistics and the quality of what you're producing. And you can do that by testing. Very simple, A/B testing, and that will bring you huge results.
Okay, so let's dig down. And the talking to the right people is about list segmentation. So segmentation is actually just taking your list of your email list and grouping them by some logical groupings that mean that you can talk to them more specifically. So you're targeting the communication. And by doing that, segmenting actually means that you're going to get higher engagement with your audience, with your list. And there's lots of research now that shows that it's segmenting lists and therefore targeting your communications better is the highest return on investment tactic that is possible in email. So you can do all sorts of other things, but segmenting your list and then targeting to that list is the most important thing you can do. Very quickly, here's an interesting graph. So on the base there, we've got the number of emails delivered from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000, and an email engagement score. Now, this is a particular thing that Marketo email benchmark survey created, but the relationship, you can see the relationship between smaller numbers of emails and audience engagement is very clear, and that's across a very big sample. And here's what we're really talking about relevance, and something to keep in mind at all times is that, you know, what you want to say and what your audience, what your potential or your customers, your clients are interested in actually only intersect at a very small point. That's the point of relevance. So just always keep that in mind, that relevance is actually fairly small and it's something that you have to really work hard for. So what can you do to be saying the right things? Well, there's sort of two ways, two big broad buckets we put that into. It's saying the right things by content and saying the right things by design. First of all, on the content, make it human. Make it from somebody. That means not only the name in the from field perhaps, but also that the email, it has a voice. It's not from a faceless corporation. It's got a little bit of humanity about the way you write the copy. Next, make it personalised. Make it to somebody. Now, that's more than just the dear Fred at the top of an email. It can be personalised by the nature of what you know about them as a client, and it could be a different email that goes to different people doing different jobs. Dynamic content. It's a big topic all of its own, but most email service providers now will be able to give you the ability to deliver dynamic content. Quite simply, it means the ability to change emails. So if you're perhaps an architect and you do two types of work mainly, manufacturing plants and office buildings. Totally making this up, but for people who do manufacturing plants, there's a photo, it automatically puts a photo of a manufacturing plant in there, and for the clients who are doing office buildings, you're putting an office photo in there. That's dynamic content. You can do it with images, you can do it with actual text. Big topic, but it's really a great way to make sure that you're relevant. So
think every time you're producing content, I challenge you to use these following 4 points as a filter. First of all, is the content that you in that email, is it going to solve a problem, a potential problem, or something that you're aware of that might be a problem for your client, for your prospective client? Is it going to save them money? You know, that always gets people interested, doesn't it? Will it make them feel super clever and able to show off in the next board meeting? Is it going to make them look smarter? And is it going to entertain them? Use humour where relevant. So ideally, wouldn't it be nice if you can achieve all of those with your content, but certainly make sure it does at least one of them. And the types of email content, look, there are lots of those, but you can harness each one of them. Many emails are just transactional. That might be an invoice. There could be an opportunity to use that. A promotional email. For example, promoting this webinar, which many of you will have joined us on the back of receiving in the first place. An alert maybe related to an event or a piece of news in the marketplace. A communication regular e-newsletter, for example, or a reminder, for example, to join us today in this webinar. All of these are different types of communication via email, but they can all be harnessed to your advantage. And then there's timely content. There's a news that goes back, a word rather that goes back to doing this. Sometimes called newsjacking, where it happens all the time. Make things timely. Make it seem really relevant, pertinent. So what's happening now in the sector that you're working in? You probably know something, and you can weave it in. Be it about the Chinese stock market, or be it about something that makes it look, wow, that's right on the money right now. So it gives your email real currency. What's going to be happening, be it an event or something, really relevant to your market or to your recipient. So your take on what's going on, your perspective on events really adds great credibility to the emails you're sending out.
So how do you do that? How do you do this continual improving? And it's through what we call testing, sometimes called A/B testing, because you're testing one execution against another. And there's lots of things in emails that you can test. In fact, if you can change it, it means you can probably test it. But some of the most common ones to test are things like subject lines. What are you actually saying in the subject line of the email? Because that's really the ad for the content of the email. And the from name on the email, because that usually says to the person, I know this person, or I trust them, or I like that content. And a big one these days is designing for mobile viewing. I'll show you some numbers in a moment, but this is vitally important. But in short, test everything. Testing should be part of your regular program of emailing and never stopping, because the day you stop testing is the day you say, I really don't want to improve anymore. It should just be happening all the time, and nearly every email you can test something. Now, traditionally that's been very hard. Software these days, again, any credible email service provider will provide even quite simple A/B testing. Here's the results of one test, and this is a real-life test. And it was the from field that is getting tested here, and Ryan Hammer at Marketo was version A, and version B, the from was from Marketo Premium Content. So which one do you think wins? Well, of course, it was version A, but most importantly, we now know that version A increased the opens by 28%. So that's significant, and it increased the click-through rate by 8%. Again, really, really significant. Who wouldn't want 28% more views or 8% more click-through rates? Now, part of being relevant is making sure you can be read, and these days mobile is becoming huge. This is data right up until just a few weeks ago, June of 2015. That shows the last 12 months market share by the device on which was reading emails. So you can see the green there is desktop devices, the orange is webmail, and the red is mobile devices. So mainly phones, but you can see that that's basically half. Half the market is now reading their emails on the mobile device. Now, if you're anything like me, you're part of the, usually it's about 84 or 85% at the moment, who will open an email on a mobile device just to check what it is. So lots of people are reading on mobile devices, making sure your emails are viewable and display nicely on mobile devices is no longer an option. It's a must. I can't say that enough. It's changed. The red line overtook the other lines at about, I think it was July 2012. So it's now very solidly in there.
Now the whole mindset now in the whole of marketing, it's not really about campaigns. It's not about just quickly getting it out, shout, look at me. It's about conversations. What that means is it's about building a dialogue between the two, between you and your customer, your potential client. So no batch and blast, please. It's a phrase that's been used in email land for a long time. It's big numbers often and very easy to do, but it's actually really quite lazy. And you know what? It might be cheap, but it's not really, because it's your reputation that you're damaging. It can cost you big time. It can cost your credibility in the marketplace, and that is it takes a long time to repair. So, and even in reality, if you're just sending lazy, bland emails out to the world and his wife, you're actually teaching your audience, your lifeblood, if you like, to ignore you, and that's at the very best. That's if they don't just despise you. So think of it like this. Think of it as being a dialogue, a conversation. We want you want your recipients, your audience, to look forward to hearing from you again. Look forward to the next contact. So that relevance, we've talked about how to make it relevant. Get people wanting to receive more from you because of those gems of wisdom you're telling them. Listen and adapt. How do you do that? Well, we've told you through testing, you're able to adapt and use what works. It's about developing a relationship, a long-lasting business relationship. And you do that by listening as well as by yelling.
Now, I'm very conscious of the time. We're nearly at the end of our time, but the prompts, all of this prompts a question: how do we measure this? So, a couple of quick measurements that we can, well, more than a couple, actually 6, but common metrics that you can apply to your email and to measure how you're going. Number 1, very easy: how many emails have you sent? Number 2, how many actually got delivered? Number 3, how many emails bounced? We talked about bounces before. Number 4, what is the email open rate? So out of all of those that got delivered, how many got opened? And number 5, the click to open rate. So once they were opened, how many actually clicked on the piece of content to go through to your website or something like that. And importantly, number 6 is the unsubscribe rate. So very, very important to make sure that that is not trending upwards or something like that. All of this prompts the question: what are good numbers? What is a good number for bounce rates? What is a good number for open rates? And I've got to say, it varies. So there's lots of things that claim to be the benchmark out there. Don't really pay attention to too much other than a very general sense. Far, far better to look at your numbers on a month-on-month basis and make sure that you're heading in the right direction. Really conscious, want to get on to some questions, but very quickly, some resources available for you at our website, image7.com.au, PSM, Professional Services Marketing, PSM webinar resources, and you can get a copy of this recording in a couple of days. Really importantly, your what not to do email campaign checklist ebook. And if you'd like to talk to us about any of this or ask any deeper questions that might come to you, the consultation request is there. Just fill that in and we can talk to you very easily.
So yes, thank you very much indeed. And here we have a number of other regular publications, some of which you may know. There's heaps more resources for you to visit us on our website to see, and hopefully you receive, or you can certainly subscribe to our PSM eNewsletter.
I can opt in.
Opt in, yes. There's the PSM blog, of course our fortnightly podcast, and more webinars. So if you can't wait to hear this webinar or want to find more, visit image7.com.au/PSM webinar resources.
So Fiona, questions?
Thanks, guys. I've got a couple of questions here. The first one is from Jenny. How often should I send e-newsletters?
Do you want me to take that one? It's Brad here. Jenny, that's how long is a piece of string? There is no one right answer for that. We've worked with clients where once a quarter is about right, and we've also worked with clients where once a day is right. So, but as a general rule of thumb, professional services firms, you're usually in that realm of once a month to once a week. Is a nice space, but it really does depend on the relationship that you have with your audience, how often they engage with you and other things. So there's a whole bunch of factors that go together to help us find a starting point, and then from the starting point, of course, you test. But feel free to give us a buzz, and if we can know a little bit more about your particular context, then we can answer that question for you.
Thanks, Brad. This question is from James. What is a good open rate?
Hello, Scully here. Hi, James. I hate to sit on the fence on the old how long's a piece of string. It really does vary based upon your own scale of organisation and the type of service that you're providing. But what I would say, please contact us on the specifics with pleasure. What I would say though is open rate, measure it now, measure it today, know what it is, and look to improve upon it. You can test it and try and constantly look to improve upon that by using the tools that we've discussed. So sorry if that's a little bit sitting on the fence. Create your own benchmark and build from there.
Thanks, Scully. Good advice there. This question's from Rachel. How do I make sure my e-newsletter is mobile friendly?
Okay, Brad here. Well, it really comes down to, if you like, the bit of the technical back-end design, and that is often, not always, but often done in the program that the email service provider will use. Now, I think, as Scully said before, we're not here particularly to push any particular one. But there's lots of good email service providers, and most of them, any of the credible ones, the big ones, will certainly have now. It's almost baked in. It's almost part of the mobile-friendly nature. However, if you want to do a test with what you've got now, quite literally send it to a few friends, look at it on an iPhone, an iPad, something that's running Android, something that's running Windows Mobile, and basically just send it out. Have a look at it. Does it look good? Is it rendering the way that you would like? Is it readable? Then some of the email service provider sites actually have also got nice little tools where you can submit an email and you can they will render it in different essentially operating systems so that you can see what it looks like. But mostly it's not something that you have to think about these days, as long as you're doing it through a credible email service provider and you've updated your template in the last little while. If you've been running with the same template for a number of years, it might not be really mobile friendly.
Great, thanks, Brad. I've got two more questions here. The next one is, three more questions. The next one is from Louise. Any suggestions on what to do to re-engage people if they're already ignoring emails due to past blasting?
That's an interesting one. So effectively what you've got is somebody who has been burnt to a degree by an email, if you like, blast campaign mentality, and they've gone, I don't trust that email sender anymore. What I'd be trying to do is to, and this is very broad advice, but looking to re-engage with them somewhere that's not on email, because sending more emails is just going to generally not get through, unless you're sending emails that could be very highly personalised emails. So quite literally, almost the one-on-one email from a managing partner or the professional that they're working with. That might get through. But other than that, good old-fashioned direct mail or something like that, it depends a lot on what the actual lifetime value of that client would be, because then how much you can afford to engage with them. But that's a really it's an interesting question. Lots and lots of possible answers. But love to talk offline on that one. But I hope that gives a clue. But essentially, just sending more emails is not likely to get them back on board.
Scully here. Yes, there's another number of other tried and tested ones, from running a competition to tickets for an event. It may not be sustainable in the long term, but to try and re-engage. I was going to say seduce. That's probably the wrong word. But to get them back and interested, that can work in fits and spurts.
Thanks, guys. The next question is from Suzanne. Should I send emails instead of doing social media?
Scully here. Hi, Suzanne. No, well, look, the two things are inevitably integrated, have to be integrated, and what better way on your emails than to get people to share them by having links to whichever social media site that you're engaged in. So encourage people to share, remember, you own your own website. This is your not rented land, so to speak. This is your land. You own your website. You can drive people to that, but you'd love people to share that on social media, your great work. So no, they need to be integrated, and the more the merrier on that front.
Just a quick little thought there is that email is important. They do integrate it. Some of the largest senders of email in 2015 are actually the social media providers like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn.
Thanks, guys. And our last question is from Natalie. How do you make a subject line engaging?
Really good question, and it's a really long answer. Now, we've not that long ago looked at that on one of our podcasts. So, Natalie, if I'm sure Fiona's got your contact details, and we can send you a link to the podcast and where we particularly talked about it. But there is a whole science of writing, and it is a science of writing subject lines that engage and encourage people to click. You can be talking about exactly the same thing, but have a very clickable, openable email based on the subject line, and one that's not so enticing to open. And it's very, very much akin to the science of writing headlines. But in short, the things you want to do is to offer a benefit, a promise of a benefit or learning. So things with numbers in them, 7 reasons to 5 reasons why, 10 things to, oddly enough, and I don't think anybody really knows why, odd numbers there actually outpull even numbers, emails with how to in the headline. So, but you can see a theme there. They're usually offering a benefit. The person who is going to open it is going to learn something, be able to act on something.
Great. Thanks, Brad. As Scully said, if you do think of a question as you process through all of this information, you can email us at psm@news7.com.au. And we'd be happy to answer any questions you have or speak to you over the phone. Thank you very much for joining our webinar. I really hope you found it useful. That's all from us, and bye for now.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.